I know that this sub-Saharan African music is only the world focus for 2022, but I started with my students with that so that they really know their work next year. Now on the internet you will see the papers that I have here. So you have the teacher's guide and it shows you everything that you need to know. And then they say that the things that's in all the terms in bold, like you see the Kora, Jalea, all those things are the ones that you need to know for the exam. So we have musical features, we have the instrumental parts that we will be looking at. We know that the Kora player sings along, so we'll look at the vocal part and the way that they sing, what they will sing about, the tradition. Now as this is African, I presume that it's from father to son, but I know a lot of female Kora players. And we also will do Afrobeat, and that's something that my students will thoroughly enjoy because we come from Africa. It's something that we know, and especially high life and jazz and soul and funk. We see all those influences and styles that influence the rest of the world. And we see musical instruments there, the shekere that my students already know. We see the texture, the timbre and the rhythm, and the complicated rhythm. You can see it's timelines and quite intricate, and we've got layers, bottom and a middle and a top, and offbeats, da, 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 da. There we have some kind of timeline, and they're more complicated. We see ostinatos and polyrhythms. And we will look at the instrumental and vocal melody and harmony, the song text and the lyrical context. So this is what is prescribed for next year. So that means that you will have a specific amount of marks out of 70 that will only be about sub-Saharan African, and especially the Kora and Afrobeat. I would suggest taking this, the Cambridge papers and divide it into different sections and then summarize the important things. Now we see there that candidates do not need to study music from the whole of sub-Saharan Africa, but should be taught about the instruments and the musical features of the Kora music and the Afrobeat. So in order to do that, you also have to understand the musical features of African music. Information has been provided on the history and social-cultural context of the music. Candidates should have a general awareness of the background to each style, but will not be tested in details on this. So now we have the background there. Africa is vast. We have 1.3 billion people on the African continent, plus minus. Nearly 3,000 ethnic groups and 1,000 distinct languages. Now if I see where we stay in Namibia, we have I think 12 indigenous languages, and then we also have other languages spoken. So we are so used to different languages, and then also hearing different languages. 1500s to 1800s we have the slave trade, and around 10 million people from Western Central Africa were taken to the Americas. 1800s started with the colonies in Africa, and this have shaped African politics, religion and culture. Also the language. We have English, French and Portuguese spoken widely in many countries following this European colonial rule. If I see Namibia, I stay in Swakopmund, and it's very German. So we have also in Namibia a lot of German influences, not only with the music, but also with the designs of the buildings. So they had a huge impact on shaping Africa. In the past, imperial courts supported musicians. These musicians preserved their culture through storytelling and were also ritualists or healers. That we find in the African context a lot, that they work throughout the day, and in the evening they have a fire, and the musicians will play their songs and people will participate and they will tell their stories. Musical knowledge is usually passed on from father to son. That I find a lot in the cultures that was not the role of daughters. They had other skills that were passed on from the mother. Non-professional musicians also exist in many societies. Music is learned through social interaction, exposure to musical situations and participation. So the younger children, if they in the group and they hear the stories, they see how the drummer plays. Maybe they get to play this drum. Maybe they have a rattle. So with the social interaction, they expose to the musical situation. The types of instruments used in Africa vary greatly depending on the availability of materials. However, similar families of instruments can be found throughout Africa. We have a lot of drums, and they differ in design or construction or name. We have a lot of percussion instruments, rattles, metal bells, castanets, cymbals and drums. They're found throughout Africa. Melodic instruments such as the xylophones. I can have different names for the xylophones. I can call this marimba, for instance. So it is lutes, flutes, reed pipes, horns. I have all over the continent. And I use the material that I find in the specific country. For instance, if I say in Zimbabwe, we have lots of metal there, I will have the mbira. In Namibia, where I stay in the south, it's very dry, so they will not make a lot of drums. But in the north, we have lots of trees, so the northern parts and cultures, they're the ones having the drums. And I stay at the sea, so if they want, they can gather shells and attach that to their drums to make that buzzing sound. And in the culture that we're living in with Western civilization, we have bottle caps all over and little beads that we can buy, and that can also be added to the percussive sounds that we hear, that characteristic buzzing of rhythmical instruments. If you go to my channel, you will see that I made a whole video on Dr. Smith, the method of studying the characteristics of African music. Now, I love Dr. Smith because if you know this method, it will really help you to gather your thoughts when you write examination, so that you can write about why you say this is African, why you say it's Indian or Chinese. That will help you a lot. African music is diverse, but there are unifying features. It's functional. We'll also see in that other video that it's there for the duration of your life. We have music at birth, marriage, other celebrations, funerals. Music is functional. Rich and complex organization of rhythm. Now, the most important thing in African music is rhythm. Polyrhythm, ostinato patterns are common. The ostinato helps to maintain a consistent and steady time flow, particularly in an ensemble of percussionists. I can also have different ostinatos at the same time. The scales is actually very diatonic. We have the pentatonic scale, the hexatonic scale, heptatonic scale, and the African melodies tend to move downwards. And we have a lot of short and repetitive little phrases and a frequent use of intervals of seconds. Dee-dee, 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 thirds and fourths. Pentatonic is quite important, I would say. Study all those scales. Melodic ostinato features strongly in many types of African music. We've got that thing of repetition. Over and over and over you will hear the same patterns. It's also common to have several ostinato parts layering each other. Call and response is commonly used, where I have a leader and the group follows. In African singing, the vocal timbre tends to be raspy and tense, as chest voice with tight throat is frequently employed. Now, that's not with all the African cultures that I have. In South Africa, for instance, the Xhosas and the Zulus, they have a beautiful open sound. And lots of them, if they're very good, they become opera singers. because they just have this open throat. In one of our cultures here, the Namadamara, that's the language with the clicks, they sing with a tight throat. But I have other cultures singing with an open throat. So that varies all over Africa. Yodeling and ululating, that li 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 is quite common in African music, where I move my tongue quite fast. Okay, it's also commonly practiced usually by women. Now, as part of my channel, you will see this video that's quite important. Music of Africa revision, where I go through melody. You see all the melody. Intervals are very easy to sing. The instruments used, improvisation, interlocking melodies. So I have, it's like weaving together. The texture, the timeline, the tradition, the harmony. Okay, the hemiola. The hemiola is that 3 against 2. So I have 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And then the hemiola is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I've got that rhythm that's used a lot. So go through the Dr. Smith method. You will see everything there. It will help you a lot. So it will really help you to study that first before you study the other characteristics of the sub-Saharan Africa that's prescribed for next year. The Kora is a harp lute, and that's the main instrument of the Julia praise singer tradition of the Mande people of West Africa. Now I've got a map here, so you will see that West Africa, Mali, I see there. Then I have other groups there as well, like the Bamana and other Mande people, but they're all over there. And they use this instrument as accompaniment to their historical storytelling and other oral traditions that were passed down through generations. So you must remember, this music is not written down. It's passed through oral tradition. A traditional Kora player is called a Jeli or a Jelia, and it's similar to a bard or oral historian, so he preserves the culture. Most Western African musicians prefer the term Jeli to Grayet, which is the French word. The homelands of the Mande people span across the modern nations of Mali, Guinea, Guinea-Bissau, Senegal and Gambia. Today, Bamako is the capital of modern Mali and the heartland of the Mande culture. Traditional Mande culture and music, including the art of the Kora, are preserved and continue to develop both within Mali itself and throughout the former Mande Empire. So that's an instrument that they still preserve and play. Now, this is the homework that I've posted for my students. Watch the world-renowned King of Kora give a demonstration and brief history, I see a spelling mistake there, on this beautiful instrument. And then watch the following YouTube video and write a short summary of what is discussed. So you can pause the video there so that you can just write that down. The next lesson we will concentrate on the Kora, and we will look at all the different parts that I have in the Kora. So don't worry about it in this one. Go through the other work and especially the other video. And there you will see what the Kora looks like. And that we will definitely do next time. So go through all the work, especially the other video. And then we take up the Kora again next time.